welcome all, and welcome back to the Believe in Iowa State podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Carter.
I'm your host, Cody Van Lillo.
Woo! Man, Cody, what a game on Saturday, man. The Cyclones win another close game this season, and this time they cap it off with a win over Miami, 42 to 41. What a game.
Yeah, absolutely. This was clearly a tale of well, the first half it was looking just to be like a shootout, and I mean, you talk about like the start of the game where Miami fumbles the football in the first snap, Iowa State capitalizes on a touchdown. You follow that up with a 75-yard touchdown run from Damian Martinez, and from there, it was just score after score, and it was just coming down to whoever. Like I think at that point, I was thinking, okay, this is gonna be one of those games where it's whoever can get a stop first has a better chance to win, and who can continue the scoring. And I mean, down the stretch, you saw defenses start honing in. We'll talk more about like the defense as a whole through this game, but I mean, shout out to Iowa State. Their defense did not look great at the start. They were not looking great. They were giving up a lot of runs. They were giving up a lot of yards after contact. They were getting burnt on routes by Cam Ward. But the second half, they were able to make enough adjustments to get a couple of key stops, and those proved to be uh, the difference in the game.
Definitely, man. And one of the things that stood out to me is that even with all the yardage and stuff that we gave up, the key thing that I knew that was going to be a factor in the end was the turnover battle. Like
Hmm.
we were winning the turnover battle 2-0 the entire game, and I was thinking, I'm like, man, at some point, um, you know, we're something's gonna have to give. Like, and they did. Like defensively, they only gave up 6 points in the second half, and I mean the whole thing was sort of puzzling. But I guess probably in Miami circles they knew that Cam Ward was only gonna try and go out there for the record, and then he took himself out for the game. Probably one of the most bizarre things because it looked like he was gonna try and come in there the last drive of the game, but
Hmm.
the Miami staff was probably like, "Hey, if you're gonna be out, you're gonna be out." So that was sort of weird to me how that whole thing came to be.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole Cam Ward situation is pretty strange. I mean, you have a lot of people saying that Cam Ward like quit on the team like after halftime. They're saying that he was selfish and things like that. Now, again, I'm not saying these things. It's just things that I've seen all over Twitter and other spaces where they're believing that Cam Ward quit on the team. And I mean, from the outlook of it, if you weren't given like, unless you know the true context of it, it looks that way because he only played for one half and then the second half just quit on the team after that record. So yeah, it does like it did rub people the wrong way when it came to Cam Ward, but I
Hmm.
think regardless, he'll still be like a top 10 draft pick. I don't know if his stock's going to change because of what they showed in the bowl game, but I mean, he still had a lot of those stats, so we'll have to see how that affects it. But yeah, it was kind of strange. But even without Cam Ward, Miami's offense was still moving the ball in the second half. I mean, they were just relying on the run game, and that's what's been working. That was working for them in the first half, and that didn't change in the second half. So I mean, right? What was it after Iowa State's 3 and out, coming out of halftime? They just ran the ball over Iowa State. They got a touchdown. And they went up by 10. So it wasn't like there was a drastic difference in the way Miami was playing between the first half and that drive. So it looked like Miami was looking fine until Iowa State cut the lead to 3. They were able to get a stop, and then yeah, you had that game-winning drive from Rocco Beck.
Yeah, and like you knew like when we held them to field goals on those drives because I mean just imagine if at the time when it was 38-35, like if they score there, game is basically over. And then I'm like, all right, we got enough time. And I knew with like 5.5 minutes I think left to go, or 5:45 left to go, you knew that Iowa State was gonna try and make this the final drive and try to run this clock down. And I think what we saw in this game, especially without Higgins playing, I think this is what the evolution of what this offense is going to be. I don't think like now. I think Chase Soul is going to be wide receiver one next year for us. but I do think it's gonna be more of a spread the ball around. And because you really look this season overall, I do think that Rocco knew that he had Higgins to throw it up to whenever he was in trouble. But like I think in this off season, I think we're gonna see him develop more as a quarterback
Hmm.
because he's gonna have other weapons to throw it to.
Yeah, I'm looking around here. So I'm looking at the box score, the receiving. You had 8 different guys get at least one touch from Rocco Beck. I mean, Jalen Noel was your number one receiver this game, 8 receptions, 117 yards, and a touchdown. But also, Gabe Burkle had himself a really nice game. He had 4 catches for 54 yards, and he got the first touchdown that was off the Miami fumble. And then Isaiah Alston with 2 catches, and they were really good catches too. Like
Hmm.
Isaiah Alston with with his hands and the way he was able to maneuver his hands to not let the defender have a chance to knock the ball out of his hands or intercept the football. So I think this is what we were hoping to see out of Alston like through the year, but because he was behind Higgins and Noel, it was kind of difficult for him to really get touches. But I do like what I saw out of Isaiah Alston, and Eli Green had a couple of solid catches as well. So we'll see how he does coming up in the offseason. But I think outside of Rocco Beck, the main person you have to talk about, if you're talking about the Iowa State Cyclones, how they won this game, was Carson Hansen. Uh, on the ground, Carson Hansen had 16 carries, excuse me, for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also added on a 13-yard receiving touchdown. So 3 total touchdowns on the day for Carson Hansen. And I think it's clear that if I'm the coaching staff, I definitely consider in the offseason making Carson Hansen like RB1.
Yeah, I said that. And when I was tweeting, he's Carson Hansen is definitely RB1 right now. He proved it, and just I definitely want to see what he was like a full season healthy, because I really do think he probably could have gotten 1,000 yards, and he scored double digit touchdowns this year, and I mean he has some speed. I think he has a lot more speed. But offensively, I really like what I saw, and I'm very I'll say I'm very encouraged about what I see next year. Now let's talk about this. What are the defensive performance?
Ye-
Now, like defensively, man, I was like, geez, we whatever we gotta do in the offseason, we gotta stress tackling and tackling and tackling and tackling and more tackling. But I'm also thinking, I'm like, well, like we also just have been abused by injuries this year on that side of the ball. So I'm thinking, I'm like, man. So I'm trying to give benefit of the doubt, but I don't know. I'm also sort of thinking that maybe we didn't run the 4-man front because they wanted to do it with Caleb Bacon, and they were planning on Caleb Bacon to be the guy that could be on the line in certain situations to be in that 4-man front. Um, so I'm gonna give them a pass, and I'm thinking that we're gonna see the 4-man front next year with hopefully a fully healthy Caleb Bacon returning next season.
for sure. Yep. And then also, speaking of that, the defense, not only was he out of the game, but also you had Darian Porter and Malik Verdon not played. Now, we knew Malik Verdon was, well, it was reported that earlier was it Ben Bramer and Malik Verdon were both not playing. And then
Mm-hmm.
it was later reported that both Jaden Higgins and Darren Porter were not planning to play in the bowl game. And I mean, I can understand like this is gonna go into like more of like a bit. This was probably a business decision that was made like before Saturday for Jaden
Right.
Higgins and Darren Porter. The timing of the announcement was kind of disappointing to a lot of Cyclone fans because it was not announced till literally right before kickoff. So that is the one thing that I think that just needs to be like made more transparent before kickoff, so that way people aren't like as disappointed and not giving as much backlash to it. But again, those two, I mean, they made a business decision. They know they're likely going to the NFL, so shout out to them. Hopefully, we'll see where they land, and best of luck to both Jaden Higgins and Derek Porter in the NFL. But with that said, not only were those two pieces, Verdon and Porter, out in the defense, Bo Freeler unfortunately went down with a leg injury. It was in the first quarter, and that was tough to see. Like,
Man, you know, you get to know these players, and we know. I know Bob Bittman personally. We tailgate with his parents a lot. during the season, and just I was feeling for them. I was feeling for him. I actually got to meet him in person one time after a game, and he's very, very genuine, down to earth guy. So like my heart goes out to him, and I know he's gonna excel in whatever he does, like whatever, because I think football probably might be out of the question for him in the future.
Yeah.
But just my heart definitely goes out to him, and I definitely know that he's gonna excel, especially with his leadership. He's gonna excel in whatever career he decides to
Hmm.
go in.
Yeah, and then maybe if he wants to stay in football, maybe he's not as a player, but maybe as like a coach or something like that, and maybe be like a defensive backs coach, given that's his expertise. So I think I could see him still being involved in football because of how much it gave him, just in a
Hmm.
coaching role. I think it'd be something that I think he'd be a decent fit in. We'll have to see though, but yeah, I mean, it's great to see that he was like basically he was the heartbeat of the defense. Like when after he went down, you could just see, like defense. It just even with how like gassed the defense was, Bo Freeland was like one of the like staples of the defense that could bring some stability, and it just was not the same. Like it was not the same when you don't see Bo Freeler run with a strong safety position, basically lined up as a linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, it's safe to say that Bo is the heartbeat of the team, man. Like just getting them pumped up before games and stuff. And
Hmm.
I mean, I knew defensively for us, like obviously it took us longer than expected. We do have talent. Like you got to see a lot of younger players play. You saw Drew just make a big play at the end. You
Hmm.
saw you saw Neil out there, the defensive back safety. That's gonna get a lot of playing time next year. Tez making big plays.
Hmm.
I mean, so I think defensively we're in a pretty good spot. But it's gonna be interesting to see how everything falls in like winter workouts and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then maybe like in the summer as well.
Yeah. So and I'm really, really excited to see what happens in the spring game too. So just that, and then we're probably gonna see what happens in the. We're gonna have to definitely see what happens in the spring transfer portal.
Hmm.
Just right in time before we do our previews again for football next season. But
Yeah.
man, do you have any last thoughts on the football season? I do have a few thoughts. I just wanted to see if you want to share any thoughts.
Yeah. This is definitely like the best season. Like I think a lot of people were arguing like which season was better. Would it be the 2020 season or would it be the 2024? I think after like with the 2020 season, you did get that Fiesta Bowl win, which is a your sixth bowl win. So
Mm-hmm.
you do have that. But in this one, Iowa State, you made a lot. Like you made big history. Like obviously you mentioned the 10-win season. Now you got an 11-win season, so we hit 10 plus. Now we hit 11, and then you get that Pop Tarts Bowl trophy, which is basically like the Pop Tarts Bowl is a lot of people are saying is like one of the two like non-college football playoff bowl games that you want to be in. And I mean, it was proven right. Like the Pop Tarts Bowl has so far been one of the best bowl games of the year, and for Iowa State to win it is great. You get yourself a really nice trophy, and that allows you to have a better media perception. Because I was watching the post game show, Psycho Fanatic. Jeff Woody put it best. You just gotta like the pollsters are idiots, and you just gotta treat them as such. So having this win against a good Miami squad, being 11-3 and whatnot, it's going to get you a better perception because these preseason rankings are not going to be like actually like logical. So you just
Right.
got to leave no doubt. And I mean, you look at it, they're not like when they make these preseason polls like in July, they're not going to look into the nitty gritty. They're just going to look like the box score and they're looking like, oh, who beat who and what. So what was their record or whatever. Iowa State, I think they're going to be a top 15 team come the preseason with what is returning and what is coming into the what could possibly coming in the portal. I think
Mm-hmm.
Iowa State is in a good spot to really establish themselves as like a top tier team in the Big 12 because I mean, we just went to the Big 12 title game. Obviously, that didn't go well, but the fact that that was our second title game in 4 years, I think puts us in a great spot to be a consistent contender to make it to the Big 12 title game, and perhaps in due time we'll win a Big 12 title or two.
I completely agree. With 2020, 2020 is always gonna have that asterisk to it, like because everybody's like, oh, you beat 4-3 Oregon team. Oh, it was there was barely any other teams playing and no full squads. There, nobody was there to see it. Still real to me, damn it. It still happened. Um, but with this, in a year where you beat K State and Iowa, you finally win 10 games. You make it to the Big 12 title game, and then and then like one of the big things for me this year is the way we flipped the one score game thing out on his head. Like we were 5-1 in one score games this year, dude. Like compare and like like because remember like in the 2022 game and before that we just found ways to lose games.
Oh, that season. Yeah, I think I don't know who made the tweet, but I saw a tweet that saw like what was it? Since that Fiesta Bowl win, we had gone like what was it, five and something or whatever it was in one score games up until the Ohio game. After
Hmm.
that, we were able to flip a switch and we just were able to actually start winning those one score games. And I think now that we've shown that we can win these nitty gritty games, it showed the growth of the team, and it's great because I mean Matt Campbell said it in his presser that you won't like it's tough to find a like an actual college football team, but there's one in Ames, Iowa. He said that in the post game interview after the Pop Tarts Bowl. I saw the original tweet on Heartland College Sports. They have the original clip, so you can go to their page to check out the clip. But yeah, Matt Campbell's statement makes sense because we are in a different world of college football where it's a
Hmm.
lot of like NIL talks about NIL, talks about like recruiting this person for this much money or this like highly touted recruit or something like that. But that's not how Matt Campbell wants to do things in Ames, Iowa. He wants to develop players to become not just great football players, but become great men and just become great outside of off the field. So I think it's a very stable way to build a football team, and I think the stability is here to stay.
Completely agree. Like when you find guys that are, addicted to like what you're finding the culture. Like this is why people find, well, why isn't he left Ames, Iowa? Like that game is an example why Matt hasn't left. This season is an example of why Matt Campbell has not left Ames, Iowa, and probably won't for the foreseeable future, man. Like I think, like for me, like everybody's gonna say 2020 is the best team. I say this is the best team ever. Like just with all the records that we're working, this is the best team ever, and I'll say this is the best team ever for right now,
Hmm.
because with 11-3, I don't see this just being a one-time thing, man. I could see
Hmm.
this. I could see us winning 9 to 10 games like every single year now,
Hmm.
and like the standard has been raised. Call me crazy, but I really do see us like being like a program that can win 9 to 10 games year in year out.
For sure. I see that as well. And I mean, I go back to the defensive injuries. We won 11 games with all the defensive injuries. Like you had your what was it? I knew some what was it Hyperjack his tweet about like you see what like was all missing from this Iowa State squad. I have to find it somewhere.
Yeah, it was like CB1, CB2, like it was. Yeah, I saw that tweet, but I know what tweet you're talking about.
Hmm. So uh, I mean that just goes to show you the testament of like how tough the team is. So if everybody's healthy, if we keep everybody healthy, yeah. So yeah, here's a tweet. He said, "This is what Hyperjack said. Said we won 11 games without wide receiver one, tight end one, cornerback two, cornerback five, cornerback six, a linebacker one, two, three, four, and five, defensive lineman one and two, offensive lineman one, strong safety one, and a top punter. So all those injuries happened throughout the year, and we still won 11 games. So I think if this team is healthy and we develop our wide receivers, we can fix up our issue. Like in the offseason, we get some really good defensive transfers. We could definitely like gun for a shot at the CFP.
Completely agree, man. Like it's so like college football is so different, and like just unique in that way that like injuries can change the season. But when you have a developmental program like ISU and they have that next man up mentality, and then like we actually do it and just it's absolutely crazy, man. So um, really excited to see where the new heights this football program goes to. But now football season is in the books, so we got to talk about our basketball team tonight, man. We are on the road tonight at Boulder. How you feeling?
This one is. I mean, this is one of those games that like you can't take lightly because I mean you're going at Colorado. You know, altitude is gonna play
Hmm.
a factor, but I know Colorado for sure. They definitely want to get like they're gonna have an extra chip on their shoulder because they got mollywopped by Iowa State last time they saw them down in Maui, where they almost had 100 points dropped on them. So I
Hmm.
think they're gonna play with a certain chip on the shoulder. They're gonna want to play to get revenge. But I think Iowa State has the guys that are capable of contain like of stopping Colorado, stopping them from basically getting much. And I just think that Iowa State can overpower Colorado. They should be able to take care of business. They're going to get tested a little bit in the first half, which I won't be surprised about. But I think once they settle into the game, they'll be able to get up like by going like a 14 or 15 point nothing run, and then they'll be able to settle in with their defense and just keep Colorado at an arm's length away from Iowa State. And I think Iowa State can take care of business there.
This is the classic Iowa State letdown game. Going into conference, being highly ranked, this is a game normally that like people would be nervous to think we're gonna lose. But I'm very confident in this game. Cautiously, obviously not confident to be where we're gonna win it. No, they gotta we gotta come ready to play. Like we have to come ready to play in this game. And don't rely on too much on your bigs. Obviously the bigs are gonna be but like don't like throw it into it. Like if the shots are there, take them. But don't also remember that like we have bigs that can score, and I think rebounding is going to be a big factor in this game. So I do think that we win. It's going to be tough, but I think we pull away and then end up winning by double digits.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm just looking at. Well, if I look at the last game now, obviously transit property doesn't necessarily work. But when it came to being in Maui, you saw balance across the board when it came to Iowa State. They had six guys. We had six guys scoring double digits. So
Hmm.
I mean, there was a balance. We saw balance in Maui. So I think if Iowa State can do something a little similar to that, where you balance, you distribute the ball, you get um, shots like for your playmakers, and then you can bring it down low. You keep Colorado on their heels. Iowa State, yeah, Iowa State should be able to take care of business and so start the new year off well and get ready for Baylor on Saturday, which is going to be on CBS. So that will be fun to tune into.
Definitely for sure, man. And then just to end the show, I wanted to know like, do you have any record predictions on how you think the rest of the season is gonna go for basketball wise?
Looking at conference play, with the way the Big 12 has looked so far, the door's wide open. Like it's wide open for Iowa State. They just have to be able to capitalize. I think there are a couple places where Iowa State will slump. I think
Hmm.
the first loss they'll take would have to be at West Virginia. I
Okay.
mean, or it could be Texas Tech. They'll probably lose one of those. Like they'll split those two road games. So I think they either one you can put them to lose either West Virginia or at Texas Tech, and then have them win the other. I'd be fine with that. The next loss would have to be at Allen Fieldhouse, Monday, February 3rd, and then the other loss would be at Houston. So those would be the three losses that Iowa State I'm looking at will have. But who knows? Maybe somewhere down the line somebody else can pick up an upset. So I'm not ruling that out of the book. So that should make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2, 10, 11, 12, 13, 3, 14, 15, 17 and 3. That's where I have Iowa State conference record right now. But it could easily be it's in between 15 and 5 and 17 and 3.
Yeah, I'm about the same thing. 15-5, 17-3. I think 16-4 will win the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that really, I think honestly, the if we're not at least 4-1 at these first 5 games, man, like come on, like we gotta be at least 4-1 or 5-0. I think at least 4-0 going into the KU game.
Mm, for sure. Yeah, that Kansas game is gonna be ridiculous. I mean, that's mentioned it before. That's the week before school starts up again. So if students like, I won't be surprised if I see students coming back to Ames early for that game if they got tickets. So wouldn't shock me. But it would shock me though if we don't get as good of a turnout as I would expect for Kansas because you know how we like to turn out for that kind of game.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be insane. And then even if a lot of students aren't bad, everybody that's going to that game is gonna be nuts.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll tell you something about so what they're doing for the student section ticketing. So they've so how the student section normally is you have the lower sections of the lower bowl right behind the baskets, and then
Yeah.
for the east side over by where the teams enter, they extend it
Hmm.
up to the top of the roof. For the Kansas game, they're doing just strictly the lower bowl, so you're gonna have um, like the spots, like the sections like right next to the Kansas bench, and then you got the Iowa State bench. So just that lower bowl area, but
Hmm.
still, I it would shock me if that place is not filled. It and because that game is. Let me just make sure what that because that's a 6 p.m. tip off. Yeah, 6 p.m. tip off on ESPN 2.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a long day. You know me. You know me. I'm gonna be camping out for that. So I'm camping out for multiple days. But it's gonna be a long day of camping, especially on that Wednesday. But we're gonna make the most of it.
Make the most of it. Make the podcast proud. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have, do you have anything else you would like to bring up, or because I
Um.
really don't have anything else.
Uh. I'm just checking out some of the slate that's going on today. I mean, you have Big 12 starting conference play. So before the Iowa State game on CBS Sports Network, you have number 16 Cincinnati visiting the Octagon of Doom to take on the Kansas State Wildcats. We'll see if Kansas State can get on a much better footing after struggling through their non-con game slate. You have number 14 Houston going to Stillwater to take on Oklahoma State. That'll be a 7 p.m. tip off on ESPN Plus, and then at that same
Hmm.
time, you'll have TCU traveling to the McHale Center to take on the Arizona Wildcats. And yeah, that's just pretty much what you're looking for in the Big 12. And this is the part of the year, like conference play begins. It's gonna be most difficult. This is where you prepare for everything. But I mean, I'm just blabbering at this point, but it's because I just remember now that the AP poll came out today, and there is no change at all to the top 13. Iowa State still holds firm at number 3. You also have Kansas at number 7, and then you've got Houston at 14, Cincinnati at 16, and then Baylor is at number 25. So you have 5 teams in the AP poll
Hmm.
representing the Big 12. Tennessee is obviously still the number 1 team, but it looks like Auburn has gained some first place votes. So we'll just have to keep looking at the race of the AP poll as it goes. But yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that update. Clones fans, make sure to tune in on CBS Sports Network tonight to watch the Clones take on the Buffs. We thank you guys for joining us for this brief recap show and a little bit of a preview for the basketball game. We can be reached on Twitter, Cody at Matt Campbell Impersonator, and me, Tyler, at Sci Guy. We can also be found on our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. So for Tyler Carter,
If for Cody Vanciolello,
this is the Believe in Iowa State podcast. Roll clones, baby.
let's go State.
Yo, Wampa is about to get